Welcome to Prime Life. We call it Retirement 2.0. Leave each episode with tips and new ideas to help you navigate retirement in our new age. It's your time. Make it count.
This podcast is for educational purposes only. It is not intended as medical, investment, or financial advice. We do not sponsor or endorse any of the individuals, companies, products, or services featured on this podcast. Any statements or opinions expressed are of the individual who makes them. We hope you enjoy the episode.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Prime Life podcast. We are gathered here today with all three hosts. It's always special when we have Mary, Joseph, and myself together. So this is Laura, Dine, and Haber, and I am excited to jump into today's conversation. We've talked a lot about a lot. We've met a lot of very exciting people, very interesting work that's going on in the space of longevity, future-proofing, future planning. We haven't dive too deep into this conversation yet. We're looking ahead, and what does that mean for multi-generational workforce? What does it mean for large business? What could it mean for small business? How does economic development come into play with the journeys of not only small business, but those who are working within those small businesses and who may happen to be mother-daughter combo? So with that, Mary, I lean it to you for introduction.
Thank you, Laura. Yes, we do have a dynamic duo, if I must say so myself. Please welcome to the podcast, Annisa, Teich, Small Business and Economic Development Champion, founder and principal of the Small Business Collective, and managing director of West Hartford Co-working and Windsor Works. She's also joined by her mother, Annette Farese. She's the president of Bromley Enterprises, parent 501c3 of West Hartford Co-working and Windsor Works. Ladies, welcome to the Prime Life podcast.
Thank you
so much
for
Tell us a little
having
bit about
us.
yourself. We'd like to start with Annette first. Annette, why don't you tell us a little bit, and then we're going to bat it over to Annisa.
Well, I have been working for a very long time. I come from a family of small business owners, entrepreneurs, and it's always been in our blood. And so when Anissa came up with this idea, I thought, why not?
Crazy idea.
It was kind of out there. And so we like kind of helping small businesses. It's what America was built on. And I just feel like there's a lot of people out there with a lot of good ideas that we would like to help.
Yep.
Annisa, how about you?
So, yeah, as Mom mentioned, I tend to be the creative of the family for sure. I have a marketing background. I spent a lot of time in corporate brand marketing and then in startup land, where I fell in love with technology while working for technology companies. Of course, the early days of SaaS and leveraging how we can then apply that, not to say some of the best funded unicorns in the world, but to small businesses. And thinking back on when my parents, owned businesses. She's being modest about her own background, but she's a multiple small business owner before I even did any of this. My parents owned businesses for years, and they didn't have the technology that we do now. And so I think it's really important for us to digest that in a meaningful way for our small businesses to help them thrive in ways that may seem only available to largely funded businesses.
Yeah.
So I love doing the show for a few reasons. One is you never know what we're going to have on the show. And then the expectations never really align. So I had no expectations going in, but your introduction just triggered about 20 different thoughts. So I'm a marketer. I worked in corporate America. I've worked in startup land. I've done tons of technology businesses. And I worked for a co-working space for a number of years. So this is going to be an interesting conversation.
Yes.
Okay.
How did you guys choose to start with a co-working space, Windsor Works? Why that? How's that going? Tell the audience a little bit about your choice there and how you help small businesses.
Yeah. So I actually it started with the marketing agency. So I founded the Small Business Collective, which is a locally focused, technology focused marketing agency in 2017 out of the original location of West Hartford Co-working that a dear friend of mine had founded about a year before. I came from the New York metro area. We're from North Jersey, where co-working spaces were everywhere. And so when I moved to Central Connecticut, I was like, where the heck are the co-working spaces? I'm not working from home. So I stumbled upon it, and in working there every day, I really loved what John was building. But he had an opportunity to work back in a corporate setting, and was like, hey, you're here all the time. You want to run this thing? And so after a little bit of that, about 6-7 months of that, he had made the choice to kind of not come back to it and offered the business to us. But with a little bit of a caveat, we knew the business needed to be moved. The sublease was going to be up. It was a very small little spot in West Hartford Center. And so in late 2019, note the timestamp there, we moved it across town to New Park Avenue, where it's been since then. And then in, is it 2 years ago now? Yeah, 2 summers ago, we opened Windsor Works, our second location, which is where we are meeting today. It's been incredible kind of building these 2 spaces and really understanding the specifics of suburban co-working and how it's, of course, very different from what you get in a major metro area, and how it can even more uniquely support the small business ecosystem. We have a lot of wonderful ideas coming out of the region, but entrepreneurship is really lonely. And, when you're working from home and you don't kind of have the opportunity to build your tribe, businesses aren't able to last as long as maybe they should, right? With that kind of additional, even organic support system that you get. So we've been really lucky to be able to support the entrepreneurial scene, which is, again, very near and dear to our own heart, through the work of these 2 spaces and layering on the addition of the marketing agency in that support system.
Yeah, and I think it's important, right? So I'm a huge fan of Hartford, huge fan of Connecticut, been around in this space for a while, supporting as I can, and I'm aware of your work, right? So I've been, I think, on the outer circle of what you've been up to for quite a number of years with my work on the Reset Board and with other people making change here in Hartford. So number one, I respect and acknowledge everything that you are working to do, and it's making an impact. But that being said, right, with the work and economic development programs, funding throughout the state of Connecticut, what gaps are you seeing in the support for small business and entrepreneurs, maybe specifically later in their journey?
And we'll get that answer after a brief word from our commercial sponsors.
NASA is always working harder to be your carrier of choice. We offer insurance products that can help you meet your retirement goals, such as protecting your savings, securing lifetime income, or paying for healthcare costs. We're dedicated to providing best-in-class service and are keeping things simple, and we'll have your back. We have around 400,000 policyholders and contract holders and have been doing this for a long time, 170 years, but we remain humble enough to always try to improve. For more information, visit nfg.com. Nassau insurance products are issued by Nassau Life and Annuity Company of Hartford, Connecticut, Nassau Life Insurance Company, East Greenbush, New York, or Nassau Life Insurance Company of Kansas, Overland Park, Kansas. Subsidiaries of Nassau Financial Group. Products are not available in all areas. Policyholder counts are for all Nassau companies as of September 30th, 2022, and are subject to change.
Yes, and good point. It's probably a lot of the same things that you're seeing, Laura, but there is a big push, and I think it's, sexier maybe to have kind of the early stage entrepreneurs, those being, in Connecticut, it's very much about courting or keeping our younger populations, right? That's been a big movement over the last 10 years. And I think with, unfortunately, COVID and kind of a movement outside of some metros, we've achieved that in a different way than we maybe intended with some of that programming. But what we really saw coming out of COVID, et cetera, and having the spaces, even the agency as well, is there are so many professionals in like the second and third chapter of their career that might not even be near retirement, but they are certainly they retire from their corporate life and want to do a passion project. They want to make money doing it, make meaningful money. They certainly don't consider it a hobby I wouldn't belittle their ambitions in that way at all, but they're looking at retirement differently, right? It's not always that sort of, I'm going to sit on a beach or I'm going to go on a bunch of cruises. You can do that here and there, right? God willing, you have the money. But they want to continue to make an impact on their community in ways that they were in kind of a corporate settings. And we find that a lot of these folks are very entrepreneurial, but the gaps that we're seeing is that there isn't a lot that supports that later stage, that sort of like second, third chapter into retirement entrepreneurial model in a few ways. One, from a funding standpoint, we see that there's a lot of the funding, again, for like the tech side or what is a scalable business. And I think the definition of what a scalable business tends to be that, like, what's the next unicorn? Like, not every business needs to be the next unicorn to be a fundable, investable, scalable business. But I think scalability looks different for different people. In addition, as I previously mentioned, our need to kind of incorporate technology in this day and age, right? That can be more challenging generationally, right? Don't want to, and I say that with earmuffs because my mother is actually really, really good with it. And I do see though that she's in the minority, right? So I think that there are different ways and different programs that we can better introduce those later in life and later in their career that might not have had the exposure to certain technologies in their work that are very much needed if they're going to be running an effective business nowadays.
So, what kind of tips or steps do you help others take who are perhaps in the second or third chapter of their life? They have created or want to create a sustainable business.
First and foremost is to kind of find and vet out the right support system, right? As I mentioned earlier, entrepreneurial life can be very lonely, right? Regardless of how established you are in your career, there's going to be people that think you're nuts. And those people will be the loudest first for a long time until you can like just shut them out, So I think both just from a sort of a professional and a personal, like just network, first of all, right? Even if you don't know what you want to do yet, get out and meet people. And there are so many wonderful ways in Greater Hertford and beyond to do that. And then once you've kind of really honed in on what it is that you want to do by way of that networking and really understanding, like, does the market need what you want to do? Because that's the other thing. Find yourself working again in a place, even if it's like, I get it. People have a home office. And that's a benefit of having the space of suburban life. But it can be really lonely, even if it like feels convenient to be working in your pajamas. It's better to just like get FaceTime, kind of that organic accountability of being in community a day or two a week, right? And things will develop from there. And then from there are then the connective tissues of various programs, incubators, or, other types of like Reset, for example, does a really, wonderful job with some of the programming to connect experts with various businesses at various stages to help support their journey. And I think that the support for that connective tissue is great, but we need more of that for sure.
So I have a sort of a two-part question. Maybe each of you could take a piece of it. So you gals seem to be getting along really well, but not every family can work together, right? Like it's hard to work with family sometimes. So maybe start by discussing division of labor, who does what, how that all works. And then you started the conversation by describing how you took over this business. So the succession from the previous owner to you, what's the plan going forward? Or how are you thinking about the next chapter of this business?
Yeah, those are great questions. I think, do you want to there are things that like you do and there are your things that are very much not my things. So
I'm the more of the, I guess, let's call it the money person. I keep track.
Analytical.
I'm the organized. Not that she's not organized, but she has more of a creative mind, where mine is kind of more of the operational. Yes, it's kind of like she comes up with the idea, and then I kind of figure out how we're going to make sure we do it.
Work?
How does this work? So, I kind of, the day to day. She's the one she's taught me a lot of the technology that we use. I've always been kind of a person that's been fascinated with technology. I mean, I started out.
Yeah, she's the OG QuickBooks lady.
Yeah,
floppy disk.
And I started out way back in the day of key punch operators. So, yeah, I mean, it goes way back. So today, the computers today to me are mind-boggling, but I love it. I love learning all the new stuff. So she keeps me going there. And she, like I said, she's the creative part. It was a great idea because I was kind of sitting around being bored. Retirement is not always exciting. Yeah. I like to keep busy. I like to keep learning new things, and I like to be around, and I like to be around people. I love the co-working idea because you have our regulars that come in and out, and then we have new people that come in that, we get to meet new people all the time, and it's fun, and they come from different parts of the country. Sometimes they're traveling, and so that keeps me going.
Yeah, and people, she's always been like hostess with the mostest, like every holiday was at our house, and so it very much translates into how she runs. Like I call her like house mama, like everybody loves her, and they like she does like this like green tea honey thing that's always in the fridge. People are like, people just like love it. It's a very like hometown kind of vibe, and like the hospitality is very much
we
like
try to keep it
of our family.
So that it's like we're community. We're kind of all helping each other and working together, and it's just kind of fun. And you get to be friendly with everybody, like they're our friends.
Yeah, and I'm the one that's out. Obviously, I do cover most of the marketing and the business development and kind of partnerships and things like that. So I'm always kind of the one running out from the spaces while the spaces are being held down by my mom or Grace, who we have as a wonderful community manager, is often in West Hartford. We do have additional help apart from just ourselves, thank God. But it's been really great to I mean, it's been amazing to work with her. I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, I literally begged her to come up from Florida and do this with us. So it was hard you can see she's still mourning with her outfit. She's, she definitely misses Florida, but I'm like, welcome to Central Connecticut where there's snow again because you love me.
You mentioned community in that, and I think it's important, right? So you'd mentioned the hospitality, and something that we've heard in conversations that have taken place before is the power in community, especially as people are aging or they're navigating new starts, new beginnings, right? Age agnostic. Share a little bit more about what you found throughout each of your journeys on where community has impacted you in a positive way. And if you have like a tip or two for people who are thinking about, how they can best give back to help create community around themselves as well.
Speak for you, but I feel like the best. I mean, apart from what we're doing right now, I think the best example of community that you had was our neighborhood, which actually is the namesake of the nonprofit, Bromley Enterprises. Yeah. I grew up on Bromley Way in Morristown, New Jersey, and it was the best, most supportive community. They're still all best friends. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to take it from you.
Well, no, I was just going to say, and at that time when they were still young, I had tried my kind of dream was I opened up a small retail store that was environmentally conscious. And
in what year? 1992? No, like,
so
a little ahead of its time, but like
a little ahead of its time.
Amazing.
But I had the community around that was pretty supportive for most of the time. So I mean, it was great.
You wouldn't have been able. I mean, they were opening boxes and setting up stock.
Yeah,
and
I had
like
friends
friends that
helping.
just
Yeah, it
poured
was
in
just
to help.
Yeah,
Um,
it was great.
yeah.
So yeah, so I mean that's kind of like what I like the idea, like even the towns up here, the small local stores where people know you and they support you. That's what it's.
Yeah.
I think it's so much. I like it so much better than big corporate
chains.
things.
We need a mix, sure, but
yeah. I mean, we do depend on
But yeah, but we definitely, I think the support and continuing to collaborate with other small businesses. Yes, and having owned some and seen the value of that even, many, many years ago. I think that is the community that we even leverage here, right? While I am a marketer and I enjoy the value of having things like Facebook and Instagram and yeah, okay, fine. But the human nature of the connection, I think, is so much stronger with what we do because of just the physical nature of the spaces. But that even relates to the agency, right? Our best marketing and business development channels are collaborations. I always say, go out, shake hands, and kiss babies. You need to. There's always something you can do that is meaningful for both businesses. It's stickier. You gain a friend in that campaign or collaboration, whatever it is that you're doing, versus just like boosting a social media post.
Well, and the networking.
Yeah.
We have networking events at both West Hartford and Windsor, and the ladies are all very, really, they help each other. They're very supportive of each other, and they're different businesses, and they support us, and so
it's wonderful.
Just makes it work.
So I would love to learn a little bit about what types or what kinds of businesses have you seen blossom, and are there any other intergenerational businesses that you've seen crop up in your world?
The types of businesses that do really well, I think, maybe sort of obviously in our spaces are professional service type, right? I would say if they're a small business or an entrepreneur, solopreneur kind of starting things up, it's definitely more on the service based. While we have had some folks that might be some type of product and maybe they'll come to us for like a business day and they have like stock at their house, or they use us for a temporary mailbox membership, something like that. But does tend to be professional services. I haven't seen as many use the spaces, I will say, that are multi-generational. We have a lot of couples. We have a lot of husband-wife teams.
Yeah.
For sure, that use the space in various ways. I'm hoping to see more. And I think that a lot of these businesses, in talking to them, they do have these aspirations of building something they can give their children and their children would be interested in. And I think that's different nowadays than, say, when I was growing up, like, and especially in a blue collar environment, your parents always wanted better for the next generation, as if there was some, I'm saying, they go to college. And I think nowadays the entrepreneurship is an important and viable way of life again. It's kind of not like the lost stereotype of it kind of lacking education, I think, is gone, which I'm really, which I appreciate. So I see the ambition in a lot of the businesses that come through, and we hope to see them get to those points of, scalability and timeline where they can, bring it on to their children. I have my son working in the business. He's 8.5, but doing little things here and there. But I do think that there are those that are starting a business later in life, they do have a lot of support from their children who may have other skill sets and other professional services that they've gained in their career, and they're helping out. They might not be like doing the business together, but they have that skill set support from their children, which is really cool to see.
Annette, I have a question for you. You came back from Florida. You were retired, enjoying life. What tips, what advice do you have for other adults who are thinking about going back into the workforce with or without their family, just making that transition back in?
I think probably when I went to Florida, my idea was to retire, but it's boring for me. So I even was working down in Florida. I found a friend who she knew I was had a bookkeeping background. So she was like, can you do my bookkeeping for me? And I'm like, sure. And then that led into other things. So I just always kind of kept busy. I would say either, looking back to what you did before, if you enjoyed it. I always enjoyed playing with numbers. To me, it's fun. So if you can find something like that, that will, just keep you busy and you like doing, just kind of, lean on what you know. Or if you have a dream or just something exciting that you want to try, I would say go for it, keeping busy, I think, has helped me. I see other friends that don't keep as busy, and makes me a little nervous.
Yeah.
I think, we talk about longevity. I mean, we all want to live as long as we can, but we want it to be, quality of life, and we want it to be, enjoyable. So
yeah.
I say just keep doing something that you like doing.
Just follow your daughter around.
I mean, even if it's volunteering, I volunteered for a while on a farm in Florida because I love animals. I mean, I'd love to live on a farm, just have a bunch of animals around. So I did that down in Florida. I volunteered on a farm. Just, you can always find something that is enjoyable. And I would say just go for it and do it.
Yeah.
I love that. I love the combination of generations because I too, put my 9.5-year-old to work sometimes. And now my 3.5-year-old, because they're watching the family member do the thing. And why not bring them into the mix? And I found in the same way, being a creative, my kids happen to be very creative. So every time I get stuck on something, I'm like, buddy, come over here. I need your input. And, can I use all of his input? Maybe not, but does it usually spark an idea that has a thread to it? Absolutely. So I think that there's a lot of there when it comes to that. And really now you have the 3 generations working together. So it just got deeper, right? Your story got deeper, which I appreciate. So as we talk more about that, and, you talked about volunteerism, it makes me think about all of the purpose-driven conversations that we've had on the show and people identifying and finding purpose. And you talked about do what you love, right? You love numbers, bookkeeping, like you love to, be there, whether it's for the farm animals or for human beings. It just feels good to give because honestly, fun fact, if I could, I would also live on a farm and that would be my day job. But that work is way too difficult. So respect for the farmers. So all of that being said, no matter where somebody is in their career, but they're trying to identify the thing that they love or the thing that they thrive at. Do you have any tips or tricks or maybe some advice for someone if they're sitting there twiddling their thumbs listening to this episode saying, this all sounds awesome. I just don't know where my passion lies. Any advice on how to help find that?
That's hard.
It is hard. And I will say it shifts. It's kind of, I liken it to those conversations about how different it might be for those of us who are more established in our career, right? Like, are we exactly doing what we went to college for, right? But you have these transferable skills that can kind of create this very windy path. And I think it's a matter, I would say it's, you can test things out, right? There's no harm in testing things out in a smart way. Do you want to go all in and financially invest on something you're not quite sure on? Of course not. But I think, maybe even as Mom said, volunteering, etc. An example that I even used myself when I was early on in my professional career in New York City, I was working for startups, but I was working in New York City and I love real estate. I've always loved interior design. Little did I know many years later, this work that I do now would be some type of mix of those two things. But I interned for free on the side for an interior designer for a period of time to see if it was something that I wanted to switch gears into instead of just hard stop derailing, And I think looking at opportunities to have conversations with experts in an area you might be interested in or you have a curiosity about, I think that's another beautiful thing about leveraging a network or building and leveraging a network is you don't have to go to it as a finished, refined product. You're a human and you can have conversations and speak very curiously with different people. And if you do that authentically, right, they'll help lead you in different directions, and it might kind of like reveal itself for you. So I would say test it out by way of talking to different people, and maybe even literally volunteering your time in different fields to see if there's something new that might fit.
So as we wind down our conversation, Laura, you usually ask the final question. So before we get to that, Annette, Anissa, do you have any final thoughts for our audience? If you want them to remember one or two things, what would it be?
I would say it's never too late.
Wow.
I couldn't have written
I like that.
Who's the marketer now?
Yeah,
She's hired.
Who's the marketer now? I love that.
I mean,
That's beautiful, Mom. Yeah.
I
never
just
too late.
just you have to keep your mind open, and it's never too late. Even if it's just something that's just for fun.
Thanks, Mom.
I love it. And for the final question, it's something that we like to do because it gives us additional insight into these already really powerful conversations. So I'll have each of you answer independently, but you all have had a very interesting career thus far, different avenues, different paths, different ways of helping out, those in your community and beyond. So why is it that you wake up every day and do the work that you do?
Me personally, I'll kind of boil it down to, I am a sucker for the before and after, meaning like I love a fixer-upper, and that translates to a lot of different things, right? I love helping a business transition what they're doing, right? Up-level what they're doing by way of marketing and branding and storytelling, etc. But I also love real estate and the physical spaces, and we really use these space models as pollinators for neighborhoods that need a little love, right? And so we go into buildings that also need a little love and attention. We're doing so in a small business, I say our Home Depot Canopate budget. These are not multi-million-dollar fit outs, like not even close, because that's not what the neighborhood needs. It's not what it warrants, and it's not what would really even resonate here. So I love seeing a building have a different reuse, and our model being one of those. But then also allowing a neighborhood, supporting a neighborhood's growth in what we're doing, and kind of inspiring others to join us on that journey. We've done so with New Park Avenue. We're super excited to do that. And we're already seeing a huge change here in Windsor Center. And we're always on the lookout for kind of the next neighborhood to pollinate.
Well, for me, it's a lot of what she said. And I mean, personally, I just like having a purpose when I get up in the morning. It's just something for me to look forward to. Again, the purpose, come here or go to West Hartford and meet people and smile, make them happy, and makes me happy.
Yeah, the people, she needs to be needed. She's an old-fashioned Italian in that way, right? And so even though sometimes her daughter doesn't need her in the way that I used to, right, when I was little, she definitely makes herself needed by those in our community. So it's awesome to see.
I love that. Before we close out the program, if individuals want to get a hold of you, what's the best way?
The best way is to visit our websites. You can go to thesmallbusinesscollective.com, westhartfordcoworking.com, or windsorworks.com.
Wonderful. Thank you both for an amazing episode. Joseph, Mary, great to have you on again as well. To all of our listeners, thank you for joining us again for another episode of the Prime Life Podcast. And we welcome you to come back next week for our latest episode. So with that, farewell for now, and we look forward to coming to you next Tuesday. Thanks so much.
Remember to subscribe to the Prime Life Podcast anywhere you find podcasts. You can find all of our episodes, contact information, and more on our website, primelifepodcast.com. Stay connected with us. Follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.